And we are live. Happy Top Shelf Monday, everybody. Welcome to 2023. We are here live. 2023 is Top Shelf Monday. You know what I'm saying? And we got some things to talk about. We have a special guest that is coming and joining me in the building. What's up, everybody? What's up, Village? Happy 2023. I hope a lot of y'all are had a great new year, you know what I'm saying, and are enjoying your 2nd of January. I'm gonna get our special guest in here in just 1 second. We have an amazing conversation. 23. I'm excited. What's up, Rochelle? You, you know what I'm saying? We back like we never left, you know? So today, it's going to be you and myself having a conversation. Anthony, he had an emergency, and my other podcast mate, Jeff, he's actually out of town at the moment. But I'm grateful, you know what I'm saying, that you here and you accepted my invite to have this amazing conversation. And to everybody that's rolling in, I'm gonna need y'all to roll in, because we got some great conversation. We have somebody famous on the live.
We let roll in.
We just gotta roll in. We just gotta roll in and have this, you know, and have this great conversation, you know. Just 1 second. So first and foremost, before everything else, we have to give the praise, the honor, and the glory due to the one who made us, our creator. I'm going to pray us in, and then we're going to get this conversation started right. Okay. God, thank you so much for another year, God. Thank you for helping us get through 2022. And now we are in a new year. Thank you that we have life, that we were able to spend time with our family over the holidays. And for those who didn't, God, we just thank you that they still are here, God. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for this platform. Thank you that we get to talk about such an amazing subject and topic, God. We pray that this only uplifts and encourages and inspires people to have more conversations in the future. We thank you so much for all that you have done and all that you're about to do in us and through us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen and amen. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Come on in here. Come on in here. We're about to have a great conversation. So I got to ask first and foremost, Rochelle, we got to introduce you first before anything else. This is Rochelle Murray. She is a leadership coach and a former principal, you know, and
sure. Absolutely.
Rochelle, can you tell everybody who you are, tell everybody about yourself?
I am a teacher at heart. I love to teach, so education is a core of my being, and I love just like helping other people just like grow and develop and like making visions come to life. So I'm really excited for today's topic. And you just coming in hot for the new year, okay?
That's it. I told you. It's so you told me your word. Your word for the year. What was your word for the year, King? Intentional. And I'm gonna add to that. My word is action. So I'm gonna just jump on it. Like I'm on it. You know, this year I'm not playing around. 2022 was challenging in certain pockets, but 2023 will be the year of action and blessings and open doors. You know, and I'm definitely claiming.
Oh, it was very low.
Let me ask you, how
did you spend your New Year's Eve? I think I'm just like in a space of reflection. So it's just like I was at home with the family. We played some games. I'm Caribbean, so we had our ginger beer and sorrel. It was really good. But yeah, just like at home with the fam.
Hey. What? Wait. What?
St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay. What island are you from, Rochelle? Okay. All right. I ain't been, but I gotta go. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I
nice.
definitely gotta go. I've been to St. Croix, so I have to.
Listen, now
I
is the
still have to
time.
visit
Okay,
and
now is the
everything
time.
like that.
Who knows if we're gonna get locked down
You know, so
again?
funny.
So book that ticket.
Right. True. 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 You know what's so crazy? During the holiday season, I got a chance to go home to Kansas City, where I'm originally from, and I got to spend time with family. And I ran into my best friend. We got to talk about old times and in high school and some of the steps that we took to kind of lead us to now, right? And he was telling me, like, he was like, you know what's so crazy? It's like when we were in high school, you made all of these choices. You know what I'm saying? Like like a lot of our friends got into athletics where you chose the kind of like the fine arts route, where like I was in the yearbook and I was into like the school paper, and I started getting into performing arts a whole lot more. And you know, me stepping outside of the norm of what everybody else was doing was like uncanny, because like everybody's like, you're not doing sports, then you know, you hanging out and cutting class. And yeah.
We like, what
They're
you
like,
doing? Why you don't have a ball in your hand?
you're in
Like,
a musical? What's
what's
that
going
about?
on?
Come on, why you ain't over here rapping? Why you ain't rapping with us? You know? But I was like the poetry kid. I was the poetry guy. I was the movie guy. I was reading monologues and literature. I was reading August Wilson plays and doing all these things. And I was like, I was that guy that was different. And I got criticized a lot constantly about it, right? And I always thought to myself, that triggered this conversation actually. Like, what is the reason for any time within our community? And when I speak about our community, I speak about Black folks, Black people, anybody that's in that group, in that diaspora, everybody, the whole island, all the islands, everybody. And I'm like, why is it that when we do something different or we step out, it doesn't necessarily have to be arts. If we don't stick to the norm, why is it that we criticize one another?
We did.
What,
you dropped do you have any?
Because I know we started this conversation up, Rochelle.
But I appreciate you just like sharing that. I appreciate you just like sharing your experience, and like even with your experience, I just want to honor where you are right now. Like, because of that, like you are set on this path that you have, right? And I think that there's beauty there. But if we like backtrack to like where it all stems from, I do want to just like do the disclaimer, right? Like, we're not talking about constructive criticism, because that's a good thing. I think oftentimes people hear criticism and automatically it's like, oh, red flag, like I don't want to hear anything or whatever. But like, there's constructive criticism, which is a good thing, because it's coming from people who you respect, people who just have more experience in that field, or just like higher achievements, and they're just like, you know, telling you like it is, so that you can just like grow and develop. Disclaimer, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So we're not talking about people who are pouring in and encouraging. And so we're like talking about that other side.
At the root, when you brought this topic to me, I was just like, well, one, we have to just like define it, right? Like, criticism just means that like you are judging somebody, or you're having a discussion about the merits and faults of whatever it is. And so like, when I think about that, I think that three things come to mind. Like, one of the things that you described of like, we criticize because like it's different. It's something that's outside of the norm. So you're just like, why are you blue when everything else is yellow? Right? Like, it's just different. It's not like the routine. I want to spend a little bit more time on that, but I think the other two is just like, you don't understand. Like, you don't understand why this is happening, or why they're making that choice. And you know that saying, like, make it make sense?
There you go.
Like, people just like, make it make sense. Like, if everybody else is doing something else. Like, why are
Exactly.
you not? Like, there's just confusion behind. Yeah, see, like Vince Style is saying, like, people judge what they don't understand, right? And so, like, there's this type of confusion, and I honestly think that, like, when you don't
Absolutely.
understand, it can sometimes lead to, like, a jealousy of, like, oh, but you have this capability and I don't. Like, oh, maybe this is why, right? And like, I'm gonna put you down, or I'm gonna say these things because I don't understand why you're doing it, or like, I can't even do it myself. And like, that's a huge part of
Yeah.
it, like the
Yeah. I think
inability
that's
to understand and
interesting.
comprehend why that person is making a choice, that path, why they're doing the things that they're doing and making those decisions. Like, that is a huge part of like where criticism stems from.
Right. Absolutely. I think we, like Venture Styles was saying, is like we fear what we don't understand when we go into, like, when people make choices, when it's a huge choice that can alter your life. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we wanted you to go to college over here, but you're
Yep.
to college halfway across the country, and we want to understand why that is. It's like, why don't you stay home? Why don't you stay close? Why don't you be near the family?
And that's
Because
a part
that's
of
what
it
the
too,
generations of
right?
our
So
family
like,
has done, and that
so
is the
you're
tradition.
leading into the
But
fair
there,
part, right? So it's just like, I don't understand, like, I just
yeah,
can't comprehend that. And then it can lead to like, I'm criticizing because I fear it, right? I'm criticizing because I have an uneasiness to like what I'm seeing, to like what's occurring. And that is big,
yeah,
right? Like, when people recognize something
yeah,
that
yeah,
is different, they're just like, whoa, I'm uneasy here. I'm not comfortable in this space. And so therefore I'm gonna cast judgment. I'm gonna find faults in it. And like, that's a huge part of it. And
yeah.
you know, fear is powerful.
It's like, oh, yeah, it is. It can cripple you. The Bible talks about it a lot, and what fear is. Like, but it also said,
Mm-hmm.
like, in Timothy, that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and sound mind. Right. So, with us knowing that, I think at the moment on the surface, we always like for instance, I'm gonna give you a perfect for instance. This is within the Black community a lot. We fear doctors a lot of the time, and we're, I can say this, we're probably, like, in my community, in my sphere, we're, a lot of the people that are older, in the community that I live in and in my sphere, they think that
Yeah.
the doctor's going to tell them something's wrong with them. Like, they already spoken it. Like, they've already said, like, if I go to the doctor last time so and so went to the doctor, you're living off those other people's experiences, and saying, like, oh yeah, this person went to the doctor for this thing and then this thing happened, and that's something that makes me, like, ponder, why do we allow other people to
Ooh,
speak
that's
into
deep.
something
That's deep.
that
Yes.
we're trying
Ooh,
to go
that's
into?
deep. That's deep because it made me, I mean, the
You,
topic that you're talking about there, I mean, we
because
could go on that, but I think there, it parallels to what we're kind of talking about. Like, there's history behind like that fear. Like, when you talk about like, well, we're casting judgment, or we're criticizing like why we're not going to go to the doctor and so forth, or just like, historically as a people, like, we were using experiments, right? And like, of course we're going to have this innate fear when like something comes out and so forth, because we haven't seen positivity from it in the past. And then their generation down the line, you hear the stories, right? And like, that's the history behind it. And so those, that generational curse hasn't been broken. And so
absolutely.
like, that's a stronghold that has taken that's a stronghold that has taken us, and not realize like, okay, well, what does this mean for us now? And so like, when we think
Mhm.
about our community as a Black community, and when I think about like, well, casting judgment and criticizing one another, like, let's talk about the time when that wasn't the case, right? Like there wasn't a case where the Black community was like that. We were very like, we were very one. We were uplifting each other. I mean, think about like Black Wall Street. Like if we go back, back to the roots, like we like rode hard for one another. Like we were making sure that like Black businesses were booming and that we were just gonna pour into each other. And I remember you asked me like, okay, well, where does it actually stem from, right? Like, where does this criticism stem from? And it's just like, I personally believe that there was a time in which like we were ingrained to basically be the type of people who were workhorses for America. Like literally, that's like the schools, we were indoctrinated to do that, right? And so if we were indoctrinated in that way to like make sure that we were producing and so forth for America, and at this time it's white America, we had to create a space where we can uplift one another. And that's what we did. Like we had our HBCUs, like there were just so many prominent Black communities and just like the rich culture that came apart. And then once we got into the system, and once like we were just like, okay, let's open the doors for everyone. We were then indoctrinated. Fast forward to like, we're still indoctrinated to do what we are called to do, be workers for society. And so like, yes, we are no longer like, we have gone past the segregation. Yes, we have gone past all of that, but still, I believe that there are remnants of just like this cycle that we were in of not recognizing that it's important for us to continue to uplift one another, but to go after the quote unquote white man's dream and not really pour into one another the way that we should. And as a result, if somebody is doing something differently, you raise an eyebrow, you question it because you're not fitting the mold to which society is asking or which society is calling you to fit into. And I think it's mind-blowing when you think about it, because like we've come from such a long way, but there's still so many remnants, and I would say like residue of that, and not really getting back to a place where we're truly uplifting one another.
I think I first and foremost, I want to say I agree with you wholeheartedly, because I think we saw it in past generations where we would go through these ebbs and flows, but Black people were still together. You know, the Black family unit was always still together. We saw it in Black Wall Street with Greenwood, right? And then we've seen it with in the 1970s with the Black Panthers and what they were trying uplifting the communities. And we know that the Crips, the gang, it wasn't actually what it is now. They were actually about the community, you know, in the beginning. And so, but a lot of our movements got dismantled, of course, by, and this is not because a lot of people are like, oh, it's conspiracy theories. I'm like, no, it's proven that a lot of our factions, our communities have gotten destroyed by white men, by the government, by different factions that didn't want to see the Black family together, you know, Black men and Black procreating. And I don't want to, like, this is not Hotep talk. This is not the Hotep hour. This is just the truth. If you go into your history,
I think that we've lost the essence of being able to speak to our richness of the community, right? Like Anthony dropped a whole bunch of, you know, there are still forums in which that is happening and where we're uplifting one another, but we don't talk about it enough, right? Like we don't actually talk about it enough, and we don't educate our youth enough. I think that right now they're being saturated with so much on social media, and it's leading to a high rate of just like comparing yourself to like who has what's happening, who's doing what, how much money I have. And so it's just like these high rates of comparison, you're not really just like looking within, not being thankful for what you have, but too busy pointing the finger and criticizing what you have, what you don't have, what you see, what you would like, as opposed to really coming together.
Yeah. I think me and Sabina, we were actually having this conversation earlier about how people within our community were so focused on, oh man, I just gotta focus on what I have here at the moment. Person, no, you stay away, you get away. I can't give you now the knowledge that I have to get more to help your family. I have to just get all the money I can before I die. And like, me and my family live on a remote island, or we live in a remote place where we might help people sometime, but we come together and we just make money enough, and we don't take time to show and grow our community in that same act. Like, so it just happens, and I'm just like, yo, what about making a difference? What about purpose? Because I'm like, if you died tomorrow, you got in a car accident and died tomorrow, what all of that money and all of those business decisions you made matter? You know?
And it's like,
they would just be
there. The fact that you're even saying that is, it's even making me think differently too about just like, how am I like thinking about my role and like my purpose in what I'm supposed to do and what I'm called to do, right? And just like making sure that whatever it is that I'm doing, that I'm actually helping like my community. And I think that's important, right? And I feel like oftentimes that is lost of what does it look like to help my community unless I actually help myself first, right? And I think that there's this piece of, I got to help myself first before I can help my community. And to some extent, yes, I can understand why people would have that mantra of like, well, I can't do for you if I can't do for myself. But how different would it be if we actually adopt a mantra of like, well, let's all help each other? How about that? Like, why don't we just all help each other? How about that? And I think that we would just yield greater things if we would actually think hard about what that would look like in practice.
Let me ask this. It's like, so we kind of like tackled the root of like why this is happening. Like, within all of this, we got down deep to the history of it. We kind of looked at the root of it. Do you think there's anybody to blame for this? Like, if we had to point a finger at somebody, who could we point the finger at in this situation? Right.
I think that
blank out of your eye, as the Bible says.
But I think the real question, honestly, Fred, the real question is, who has the authority to criticize? Listen.
Who who throwing rocks in our hands? You know what I'm saying? We throwing rocks and hiding our hands out here? What we doing?
That is the real question. Like, who has the authority to criticize? And honestly, like, only God can judge me, right? Only God can judge me. Only God can judge me.
Right. Legit. Yeah. It's so hard because we look at the ebbs and flows in history, right? And then we get to us, the 90s babies, and we still, not that we're 90s babies, but I'm just saying, like, the 90s generation, that pocket. And we're like, okay, we still got this thing about community and togetherness and family. And then 2000s come, and it's just kind of like, are we still about it? Are we still getting there? Or are we still like, oh, okay, looking at what the other person has and getting as much as we can, and then we kind of like let go of those principles? Yes, we meet we still, in churches, we talk about family and togetherness and outreach and reaching, reaching out to people, but we still criticize
I'm
in church.
guilty of it too.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm
You
guilty
go to
of them,
other
like,
places,
these
you
Gen
know what I'm saying?
Zers.
And yeah.
Like, but why though? Why? Because it's different. Because it's different, right? And then even in those moments, I have to pause.
Yeah.
And tell myself, it was just like, okay, well, what is my concern here? And I think that that's the biggest thing. Like, we often act out on the criticism by either making statements, defaming, putting other people down, as opposed to stopping and saying, like, well, why do I have these thoughts? Where is it actually coming from? Is it because I don't understand? Is it because I can't do all the things that they're doing? Is it because I feel like something is lost? Like, why aren't we asking ourselves those questions so that we can really understand how to help, how to actually guide, how to actually offer some like constructive criticism and not demean and put down? And so, like, I feel like that's also a part of it, of just like, yes, it's that there's that immediate reaction. We also know that it's biblical. Like, come on, Genesis, Cain and Abel, like, it was there from since the beginning, right? So how are we actually pausing in those moments so that we can actually think differently?
Yeah. Jealousy is really and because we had a conversation about this with Top Shelf. It's like comparison and jealousy, like, and how I think it's one of those things where it's like, I have the potential too, but because he's utilizing it more than I am, I'm going to, I gotta say something about that. I gotta quote on that. I gotta know how I feel, or I gotta let her know how I feel. She got a new car. I've been wanting a new car, but I just think, I ain't saved. You know what I'm saying? I didn't save up for that. But, I have the potential to. And because I did not, maybe steward my money the right way, or I'm just not ready yet for a vehicle, maybe that's why I'm angry. That's where that comes from. By that, man.
But that's
it's just
that's
there's
a part
so
of
many
it, though,
ins and
right?
outs,
Like, even
of
Anthony
it.
mentioned it, like, that's emotional intelligence. That's a huge part of like the leadership work that I do, of just like increasing your self-awareness just helps you become a better person. It helps you just like move differently and operate differently.
Absolutely.
As a leader, as just like as anybody, right? Like, the fact that you can pause and stop and like kind of get meta about like how you're thinking, what you're saying, and like recognize what triggers you, like, that is powerful, because then it allows you to really take stock of where it's coming from, why you're actually doing it, and like how to navigate those situations.
Absolutely. I think there's power in just stopping and saying, like, where's this coming from? Where is this coming from? Why do I feel such anger? Or why do I feel such malice? Or where's this frustration coming from? Is this a deeper thing? Like, it can be, I've seen people jealous of their family members. I've seen people jealous of their spouses. I've seen people jealous of their friends, and I'm guilty. You know what I'm saying? I've been guilty of it. You know what I'm saying? In a place, but I literally have to go inside of myself and say, where is this coming? Why is that? And this introspection. If you take time and do introspection and really say, hey,
listen,
am I
we don't do it enough.
right?
We actually don't do it enough.
Am I
But
good?
and unlike that, it just reminds me of just like thinking about how criticism just like impacts you. And like, we talk about like the trauma that we've experienced. I know I can pinpoint a piece of trauma in my life that has like, that the root cause is criticism from somebody else. And I think almost anybody can actually say that. And like, we're actually damaging one another and causing trauma to each other because of the criticism. And like, yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. And what about, Rochelle, can I ask you, what about unsolicited criticism too? Like
Listen.
sometimes you may not ask people, you may not ask them, you may not say, you be like, hey, you know, I'm about to wear this dress out, or you know, I'm about to go out here and do this and do that and do this. Well, that's not my color.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? You don't ask about the dress, and I think in our community we do that a lot. Like where it's like you just give
and that's a part
a
of
comment,
it too,
like
right?
what's this
And then
comment
recognizing that like the unsolicited criticisms, the ones that were like just came out of nowhere, like how it is causing trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how the person actually takes it. And I think that's a piece of just like, well, how do we actually build ourselves up for what we know is going to happen, whether it's within our community, outside of our community? Like, how do we armor ourselves for this? And then how are we also critical of ourselves while we're thinking about the way in which we may inadvertently criticize other people? And I think that's a huge piece of it too, because we don't recognize that and we don't slow down enough to recognize how harmful it can be to others. And then there's some people who just like do it because they just do it.
And think about this in this new year, right? There's going to be so many people being so critical on themselves. They are so like upset about all the things from last year that they didn't accomplish, and all of the things that they had time to do but they didn't get to do. All of those things that
comparison.
people,
I'm
you know,
hearing
they
that. I'm
saw
hearing that
people do
comparison again.
that they
We talk
wanted to
about
do,
that.
and they just. But I mean, it's just such a high time in the top of the year. You know, I seen people running to the gyms today, sprint, like, and so it's just like people are
Vincent
so.
South
I
also
think we're
brought up a
so
good point. Like
trained
people criticize
in a
based on their
sense
personal
to
experience.
to,
That's
to
a word.
look,
Because it's only what you have gone through, and it's only based off of what you know.
yeah, yeah. It's like how, like, hey, oh, you don't understand because what I did and what I went through with my family and where we from, you know, and that's where that. Oh, what's up, Amanda? How you doing? Sabina said, "How do we navigate living in a critical culture where it's
Oh, absolutely.
my wife has told me, like in Caribbean culture, it's very critical on your physical appearance, like looking at you. It's just just they'll tell you how they
Caribbean,
feel.
I know.
Look, and me being from the Midwest, like, literally, if you're not eating, if you say, hey, I don't want anything to eat, they're gonna look at you.
What you
Excuse me?
The raised
you're not
eyebrow.
What you who you not exactly. What have you been smoking? What's why you not eating? You know, like it's but I'm like, what if the person truly has already eaten? What if the person truly is just doesn't have appetite? What if the person is sick?
Like ask a bunch of
you know, we don't consider
and I
those.
think that people actually don't ask questions in order to get clear, in order to understand the full picture. And I think like that's a huge part of just like understanding like how do we navigate this world when everybody's so critical of us. It's just like how are we actually taking the time to ask the questions and recognizing that like everybody who is criticizing you, they don't have the authority to judge you. That's real. And like sometimes you just have to have like that mindset. It's a shift in mindset of like, who are you to say something to me? Period. Like you don't have the authority. You don't.
I'm about to start getting into this mindset. and somebody say something, I'm like, let he
Don't
who
have
without sin
time.
cast the first stone, because I ain't got time for it. I don't got. Listen, let me ask you, Rochelle, when did you start noticing this was a thing for you? Like, do you feel like it was a certain age, or did you just immediately pick up on
That's a really good question.
how critical we are in our culture?
I think that growing up, I didn't realize it because I'm just like in my bubble. I recognize it happening. I recognize it on the receiving end of it. And then because of that, I know that there are times when I have been critical of others, right? Like whatever was done to me, then I recognize that I'm doing it to others. And not even like realizing where it stems from. But I do feel that as I got older, like I think about, and I've often questioned, like, man, the Jewish community, they're like this, like a rope that, them rope, a 3-cord rope, okay?
All day.
And just like, when I think about our community, I'm always thinking about us as crabs in a barrel, like literally crabs in a barrel. And like, why is it so hard for us as a people to really support one another, so that we can actually like thrive? And I think it goes back to just like a mindset of just like fending for myself, fend for yourself, so that I can worry about me and mine. And like, if you happen to cross the bridge too, you happen to cross the bridge. But I do feel that because of social media, I feel like there's just like a new wave though. A new wave and a resurgence of just like, one, educating our people more. And like, we also have to do our homework and discern fake news from real news. Like, do your homework, because not everybody out there is an expert, or everybody who's offering a master class ain't a master at it. Do your homework. Listen.
True.
Do your homework, but I do feel as though it, in some aspect, it has been a bridge, and our eyes have been open to a lot of different things that's happening across our country that's enabling us to connect more. I don't know the numbers on this. I wish I did the research, but I can bet my last dollar that like we are now seeing a resurgence of just like so many Black businesses just like booming. And I think the tide is changing. I think the tide is changing. It is turning, and there's more that we can do. There's definitely more that we can do. We just have to shift our mindset. We literally have to shift our mindset.
That's so true. Like, I think it can. A lot of people will think that it takes like, okay, we need this many billions of dollars to change the minds of people. Because like we talked about it, we spoke about it offline about reparations as a possible, like, oh, maybe reparations, we give reparations and that's the solvent to this. I said, but that, and I think I made the point where it's like, that just only solves one issue. That only solves like one part of it. But it's not like it as a whole, like in how we view ourselves and how we other and how we love each other. Because I keep seeing these things, Roger. Like I turn on my when I look at my social media, it's like, oh, why Black men don't protect Black women?
It's always something.
Or why do Black women act like this? You know what I'm saying? Or it's always something. And I'm like, hey, my question is like,
but that's a part of it, right? Like when you
love each other, yo.
Like, how do we actually
when are we just gonna
position to criticism? Like, we have to start with love, right? Like, are we like authentically, genuinely loving one another, and are we showing love for our brother, for our sister? And that's a huge part of it. Like, when you have a heart where you just have that care, like your actions just just change. Your actions change because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely concur, because your heart posture is different. You know, when it's just like, hey, I just want to give and I just want to help you. You know, we need to go back to that time when we were more trusting of each other, when, like, we talked about Black Wall Street, and my grandfather, he used to tell me all the time, is like, back during segregation, they had their own pool halls, they had their own businesses, hospitals, they had their own banks.
Mm-hmm.
They operated in a community of Blackness where everybody could. It was a village. Like, if somebody saw your child on the street somewhere where they weren't supposed to be, there would be a phone call made, and then
Because you hear it
located,
down the
and you'd
line.
be
It's
dealt
true.
with,
It's
you know,
true.
by your parents. But it was, but that was the village. That was the village mentality. What you being a principal, right, or a former principal? Uh, can you speak to us? I know this is kind of like, we're still on topic, but this part is right here. I cannot not address it. Where it's like, we're kids without that village, like, and how they are without this mentality of, like, parents working with other parents, and they work with teachers and all of that stuff. Like, how are kids being affected now because
I mean, is that a real
we are
question?
not in conjunction?
Like, I mean, you can literally see it. But to your point, I think that the ultimate impact is that you see kids who are fragmented, right? Like, their perspective on, like, who they're doing for, or just constantly comparing, or like not feeling supported, or feeling like they have people to support them. They feel isolated. Like, right now, we are seeing the highest cases of depression in our nation, the highest cases of suicide. Like, when you don't have that support, it leads to detrimental thinking, and you just feel so isolated. And like, it's so harmful, which is why, like, we have to create that environment. And the fact that you even said that, like, I think about the school, and I think about, like, what does it look like right now for us, right? Like, the world is like our school. Literally, the world is our school. And it's just like, how are we actually creating the optimal environment so that we can actually thrive?
Absolutely.
Like, that matters. And I think one of the biggest solutions to combating criticism and, like, countering criticism is really, like, how are we actually offering help to others? I, like, when I first thought about it, I was just like, that saying, like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say nothing at all. But I want to shift my perspective on that, because, like, that actually pushes you to be silent, and it pushes you to just, like, stay with your thoughts. And we don't want people to be silent. Like, we don't want you to stay with your thoughts, but, like, instead, like, don't say something harmful, do something helpful. How about that? Right? Like, don't say something hurtful, like, say something helpful, do something helpful. Like, how can we actually shift the way in which we operate? And, like, honestly, I think another thing is just, like, support and encouragement just goes a long way, period.
Absolutely. I concur. With the criticism part, I think that goes into the last question, where it's like, when we think about solutions for this, right? Like Anthony mentioned it in the chat. He was like, hey, any solutions that we recommend about the criticism, jumping back into the criticism part of it, is that, like, encouragement goes a long way to rather like I always get this thing in my spirit, right? Whenever I'm ready to complain or ready to just say something out of my mouth that is just got like a comment that may be unsavory, right? I always say to myself, I'm like, you know what? As opposed to complaining in this moment, I'm gonna be grateful. I'm gonna be grateful in this moment. I'm gonna be encouraging. I'm gonna be loving because I know how easy it is to complain, how easy it is to comment,
It really
how
is.
easy it is to criticize. It's so easy. It's so easy to allow your mouth to really just speak
Yes, Amina, with the good
harm,
questions. What does support
so
look
to
like
speak.
in our world today? I think that we actually have it kind of easy at our fingertips with social media. Like just the other day, I was following like one of my mentors, and like she dropped this bomb post of like how she was able to meet her goal, and basically listed like 15 other Black businesses that she gave her flowers to. And it's just like, do, that's what support looks like. How are we actually like giving flowers to people now before
Right.
like it's on their grave? Like that's how we uplift one another. And like push past social media and like literally like pick up the phone, call
Absolutely.
somebody, meet with somebody, have the conversations. Like let's have more talks like top shelf. Like that's actually how we actually come together as a community. That's how we actually support one another, and we actually like push each other's thinking too. Like there is so much that we can just like learn and glean from one another. We just don't do it often enough because honestly we're in silos, and we have to break the molds. We have to think differently, and we have to like really have a posture of gratitude and a posture of just like openness, and just like that trust of like, I know that like my brother, I know that my sister has my good interests at heart, and that I know I'm gonna like be supported no matter what. And that's what really matters.
That's absolutely correct. Anthony up here he's giving
Yes.
seems like invest in a grassroots company. Be a mentor. Vote in your local primary. Absolutely. And Sabina said, getting out of your bubble and
Yes.
giving to others. That definitely is a solution. Generosity is such a great practice. A lot of people, it's a lost art. A lot of people, I think we are so concerned about where we're going. And then when we get there, we're like, okay, I'm here. Now I'm just trying to get to that next level. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, but what about those people that helped you get to that level?
Some people are often so wrapped up in just like what others think. Who cares about what other people think? Right? Like push past that in order to just like uplift others. Push past that in order to like share what you have to share, because you know it's going to uplift the community, and you know it's going to be a blessing to somebody else. And I think like that is the beauty of just like everything that we go through in life. Like, yeah, people criticize what they don't understand. People criticize what they are afraid of, and people criticize what's different. But that's how God made me. And God put me through all of this so that I could be a testimony to you. And so like, let's not keep ourselves in these bubbles, because that's what ultimately the devil wants. Like, we should not be isolated. We should not be isolated. And we have amazing news to share. We have amazing wisdom to spread. And we actually need to continue to do that. And a powerful way of doing that is through mentorship.
And Rochelle, the question is, how do we hold each other accountable to these beautiful you mentioned?
I know.
Yeah, to these standards and to these things. Like, okay. And I see what Anthony said. Anthony said, instead of taking your child to Foot Locker, go to the
How about
library and open
both
a book and teach
and?
them
How
about
about
their
that,
history.
Anthony?
Woo, I
It's
didn't
not
say
a
it.
one or the
Anthony
other.
said.
How about is let's go to the library first. Let's like read this book, and then we can go
Yeah.
to Foot Locker so that they can see it's coupled. Like you learn something, you feel good about learning about where you're from, and I'm actually going to allow you to reap the benefits because of where we are now and because I can afford to do that, right? Like, yeah. Anyway, I think that what?
And you go that look.
Listen.
You.
Listen.
And still.
And so my question was like, how do we hold each other accountable for these things? Like, so if I'm your friend, Rochelle, and you my friend, right? Like, how do you hold me accountable to these things? Like let's say I'm a millionaire. I got all this money. I'm like, you know what? I'm about to invest in this property.
I think that's the power of the community that you do have, right? Like, you have to have a community that you know you trust will hold you accountable. Like, real talk right now, like I'm in the middle of fasting, and like my sister was just like straight up like, why are you fasting? What you fasting? She was like, yeah, I want to know so I can hold you accountable, right? Like, but that's a part of it. Whatever it is you put out there, like you have to believe and you have to find your community that will also hold you accountable to that. And like that's a piece of it, right? Like, and I trust that, like, if I share something with you, Fred, you can be like, I see you, and be like, Rochelle, how you doing with that? Right? Like, what does that follow-up actually look like? And so that's also a piece of it. So it's not only that accountability, but knowing that you really have a community that's actually going to check in on you. And I think oftentimes we only look to one like when we falter, or when we look to each other when we see each other, as opposed to like doing that check-in. And like the check-in matters. And so like how can we actually be more diligent about like faithfully following up with other people, and not just thinking about you and yourself.
Right. And not unsolicited criticizing that person when you're faithfully following.
Instead, give that constructive criticism.
Some people get I think a lot of people can do more better. A lot of people could do better by just asking, like, hey, would you want my opinion? Do you want my opinion on that? Because I like a lot of people be so burning to give the advice or give the criticism or give the thing. Like, hey, if you like my advice, I could, you know. Sometimes if I catch, like, I'll be honest. Sometimes if I catch myself giving an advice or whatever, some unsolicited advice, I'll say, oh man, I'm so sorry for sharing that. I know you didn't ask for my advice. That is true. And I just gave it. My bad. And you know what I'm saying? Let me actually listen to
that's also a part of
the conversation.
Knowing your community, right? Like knowing the relationships that you have and really evaluating your relationships. Because you wouldn't want to find yourself in a space where you have a different perspective of the relationship you have with somebody, and then you say something and then that person is side-eyeing you like because you thought you were on a different level. And so like you also have to be aware of like what are those friendships, what are those communities in which like I know I can seek the feedback and they are going to give me the feedback that I need, that's going to like help to propel me even further and help to like uplift me and just even help me to correct course as needed, or as Vintage Style said, that chin check. Right? Like give me that real talk.
In love.
Yes.
He said audit your Anthony said audit your friendship. I do it in every season. Fred is Fred always passing every season. Yeah, he said I always pass in every season.
Hey, you have to. Anthony always does a friendship audit, and I audit of every friendship and just checking in because you just want to know where you stand, you know, with people, you know, and like I get that some friendships phase out, and some, you know, are for a lifetime, but it's important to have those people that you can
Absolutely.
hold on to, be able to encourage you. You
And
encourage them, they encourage
that's a
you,
huge part. And that's a
and they
huge
challenge
part
you.
of how
You know,
you
and try
feel like
and
you can push through the criticism received. And then also recognize that there's also space for it, but in a healthy way, right? Like knowing that you have that community, like that is peace. That's a peace of mind. And then also recognizing that you're going to have to build that tough skin because unfortunately that's the way of our world.
And what would you say, Rochelle, to somebody that is really, really critical on themselves? They're not critical to other people, but they're just critical. They're very,
I suffer
very
from being critical on myself. I am very critical on myself. And so it's a great question. I think one of the biggest things is like thinking about like, whose are you and knowing who you are. And honestly, the peace of mind that I have is knowing that I am fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and like recognizing that like I am made in his image. And one of the biggest things is you're critical of yourself because you haven't actually accepted like the flaws, or you haven't accepted like where you are, who you are. And honestly, I am pushing past the mindset of like I want people to just like love me, flaws and all. No, because God views my flaws as embellishments. So like it's really a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of recognizing like you are like beautiful, you are amazing just as you are. Just as you are. The hairs have been numbered on your head just as you are. And having the appreciation and self-love will help you push past being critical. And we need to have more self-love.
You just answered Sabina's question. What's up? What's up? What's up, Jeff? What's up, bro? We are we're having an amazing conversation. Sabina asked, for someone who doesn't know God, what advice would you give?
Are you caring for yourself? Are you loving yourself?
It's a self-love for me.
How awesome you are. Listen.
And I heard a pastor one day, a pastor Sembler from Brooklyn Tabernacle. He was like, this was at a point where he was quiet in his sermon. Nobody was saying nothing. And then out of nowhere, he said, God told me to say that he turns our messes into blessings. And I'm like, and he said, that's people too. I'm like, whoa. I was like, who told you to say that?
One that I've heard, I don't know who I heard it from, but you know, one that I've heard is just like, there's out of every mess, there's a message. Okay? There's out of every mess, there is a message. And so I think it's important to just like recognize that we cannot like step away from criticism in this world. It is innate. It is innate. It is like, it's all over. But we do have control over our circles. We do have control what we saturate ourselves with. We do have control of like how we respond to it and how we choose to operate. And like that is one of the biggest things in regards to what empowers us as people and as a community. It's like, okay, the criticism is going to be there, whether you get it from within our community, outside of our community. Now it's up to you to know how you're going to respond to it. And what are you going to do to show up differently? Because what did my forever first
Word.
lady says. When they go low, we go high.
Word.
Okay?
Oh,
My forever first lady, okay?
that's the best first lady I've ever known.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah. Let me yeah. No, that's
Plus
wow.
stats.
Wow. You know what I'm saying? So everybody meet Miss Murray, who is a future author of the best-selling novel, Your Time Is Now. You know?
Your time is now.
Your time is now. You know? Let me tell you. Listen, Rochelle, I told you when I saw your
coming. Now
listen,
you got
where is the book at?
It's coming.
That's all I need. Look, I didn't look. I got to know where God got you here. He
gotta give credit where credit is due, and at the same time, right?
You know what I'm saying?
You also have to recognize how God allows you to be a blessing. So thank you for being the vessel. Thank you for answering, so that you could be the vessel.
Yeah. Let's go. Look to everybody. Top Shelf Village. We want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2023. We pray that y'all had a happy and a safe New Year. To let y'all know, we don't have an episode coming out tomorrow, but season 5 is coming really, really soon. So y'all need to stay on the lookout for that. All the platforms on. If y'all want to go back and listen to our previous 4 seasons, you definitely can. That is Spotify.
You on all the
we
platforms.
on Anchor. We on Stitcher. We on Amazon Music. Apple Podcasts. We on Google. All of them. We on every single one of them. And the easiest way to access all of our episodes is www.topshelfpodcast.com if you want to access all of them. Let me ask you, Rochelle, we always do this thing. What is your word of the week? If there's a kind of focus. Yeah. What is your word of the week? Hey, we are familiar with that one.
It's the new year, all these resolutions. Come on, you gotta be disciplined. You gotta go full force.
Okay.
Full force.
Mm-hmm. You definitely gotta be ready. Everything. And to everybody in the chat, you can drop your word of the week. And I would be remiss if I did not ask, Rochelle, can you plug anything you have coming up, your platform? I definitely want you to just plug things that you about to be doing. Anybody, can they support you in any way with your cash app, with your sign?
Just keep following me at Miss_Murray. I do have some things in the works. God has just blessed upon my heart. So stay on the lookout for that. And I'm just, here to be a blessing, especially for all my leaders in the room. If you need support, do not hesitate to reach out. And so I'm looking forward to just helping us as a community and helping others grow in who they're called to be.
Hey, I love that. So be on the lookout for her, Miss_Murray. Make sure you be on the lookout for her book. It's the principle of the matter. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Every time I see you, I gotta say it's the principal. I mean, but you're a former principal. You're about to step into your calling now. I said this year, my thing to set this year is I want to make sure I give people their flowers when I see them. I always want to I give people their flowers when I see them and make them feel loved, make them feel appreciated beyond, the laughter. I want to make them feel loved and make them feel appreciated now, because so many people, we lost so many people last year, and so many people unalived themselves and took their lives. And I just want to make sure that people within my reach and people that are not within my reach, as much as I can, to make sure that I can help in any capacity to make them feel appreciated and loved. and just spread love. Anyway, you know, because that's important. And Rochelle, I just really want to thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation with me. I know yesterday I hit you up, and I know this is very much impromptu, but I did this because not only I did want to challenge you, but I also know that I see something coming. You know, something is coming.
And so my job is to be obedient. So I'm gonna receive it. I'm gonna receive it.
Something coming. Something is coming. So get ready, get ready, get ready. In the words of TD Jakes. We want to thank Miss Rochelle Murray for joining us on the Top Shelf podcast. Well, the Top Shelf IG Live anyway. And we appreciate you so much just for joining us today within this conversation. You did a phenomenal job.
Well, you're gonna have to share.
Hey, y'all need to rewind.
Share this with me.
This,
so like,
this is one of them conversations.
Stuff starting the new year. So I'm really.
I got you. Remember when we talked about Rochelle? You got the right. Remember, right?
I got my notebook ready. Okay, I got my notebook ready.
And or record it. I said record. Make sure you record it. But until next time, Top Shelf Village.
Bye.
We love you guys.